Good evening, folks. Mike out here on the porch again. I hope you all had a good weekend. About to start a new week. It's Sunday night. I'm out here with a Aroma de Cuba Amore. Once again, probably butchering the Spanish on there, but it's in the Belesco Vitola. You see the end, it was kind of had a pointed end on it. I like the V cut, even no matter what tip on it. I always like that V cut. Doesn't matter. It seems to work on most all of them. Not a big fan of the guillotine cutter, but it'll work. I got a couple of them, but this thing's pretty good. The Cubas have there's a bunch in this line. There's a Noblesse, and I don't know. I'm guessing 4 or 5. I've had all of them, I think, except one, and they're all pretty good. That Noblesse is, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's very good. This is pretty good. I think this is the first one of these I've had. It's got a San Andreas wrapper, Nicaraguan filler. Beautiful band. All of these have a similar band. But that's some artwork on there, man. That's pretty good. Kind of a espresso, dark chocolate, like a coffee kind of. Some spice, but not, I wouldn't say it's spicy though. Doesn't really give you that peppery, like that burn. It's more of a, I don't know how they say, a baking spice, I guess. Pretty good though. And they always have good construction, good smoke, a nice even burn. Look at that burn line. Yeah, that's usually you don't have to touch them up or nothing, but we'll see how this one goes. It's been resting in the humidor for a few weeks, so hopefully it'll be good. And if you remember a few weeks ago when I was in Tennessee, I talked about this Redbreast 12. That stuff there, man. The only other Irish whiskey I think I've had, and I used to drink it quite often a few years ago, was that Jameson. And I drank the regular one usually. I have had the Jameson Black. I like it. It was pretty good. But I haven't had any Irish whiskey in, gosh, it's probably been 4 or 5 years now. But not because I don't like it, but this stuff here, this Redbreast, puts Jameson to shame. It's pretty good. They have a 12, there's a 15, and on up. I don't remember how many they got, but nothing. Irish whiskey is always a little more, I don't know what they call it, mild than bourbon. This one is kind of like fruity. I don't know. It's like I think this is aged in Oloroso sherry. I think that's right. Oloroso sherry casks, and he has that kind of a sweet smell to it and taste. It's a little pricey. I mean, I guess compared to a lot of the bourbons, not really. The 12 is. I don't know about. I think the 15 is getting up there, but this 12-year wasn't bad. Very good. If you're into Irish whiskey, if you haven't tried it, I would suggest it. This is my first time trying it. I think I told you I was had heard a lot about it, and then I bought a bottle of it to have on St. Patrick's Day, and very impressed. So I think when I finish this off, I'll be always have one of these in the cabinet for sure. But very good. I was just thinking, I was listening to or watching a podcast or a YouTube video, this weekend, and it's about a guy. I think he just turned 40. It's something Dad. I can't remember. I can't. Wish I could remember the name of it, but he seems like a good guy. But I think he's divorced. He's got a couple of kids. His podcast is trying to, I guess, figure out his life now that he's 40. And a lot of what he talked about on the video was how, as he's, I guess, after the divorce, it got him thinking about things, and he's living. He says he's living by rules that he did not agree to, and I think there's a lot of people that can relate to that, or believe that. I think sometimes you find yourself, when you're young, you kind of get swept up in the moment. You find a gal, you get married, you're kind of doing what your family does. You end up living up to family's expectations. You get the job because you got to take care of your family when you get married. Your friends, what do they expect of you? You get into some hobbies or some clubs, and then you got these people expecting things of you. And even you end up with possessions, and you sometimes you look at your life and you go, did I really want all this? Or why am I here? Because I'm not even enjoying this. And it's easy to find yourself in a situation like that and think you need to blame other people. Blame your parents, blame your wife, blame your friends. But ultimately, granted, they might have pushed you in a certain direction. Ultimately, you made those decisions, and you're where you are because of decisions you made. I'm not trying to be hard on him or anybody, because I've kind of, I think every man has kind of come across that in his life at some point where you look around and go, what the heck happened? How did I get here? And you're just trying to figure out what you can do to make your life a little more what you want it to be. And I look at it as I don't really blame family, your wife, your friends, anybody for being, like I said, you made those decisions. But another thing to remember is probably at one time you wanted those things. And over time, people change. Sometimes what we want changes. Maybe you don't want to be married to the woman you married. Maybe you don't want that job that you took that's safe and pays the bills and things like that. But you find yourself in a position where you can't really leave because you got people dependent on you. And that's the right thing to do as a man. I mean, you're not a child anymore. You signed everybody up in your life for this ride, and it ain't right for you to bail out. I mean, to each their own. But I see it as if you invited all these people to join you in this life, it's not fair for you to all of a sudden at 40 decide I don't want to be here. I think what the more mature thing to do would be look around and say, how can I fix this and make this fit where I am today? How do I evolve? And it may be getting some new friends or setting some boundaries with the family, setting some boundaries with your wife, taking up some new hobbies, letting some go, things that are dragging you down. I don't know, maybe you stay up all night playing video games or whatever people are into. I never played video games and never into that, but I know people are. I don't get it, but people are. And there's nothing wrong with it, I guess. I mean, everybody has their thing. But, if you find that, for instance, that's holding you back from maybe getting to the gym or doing things that you want to do in your life to make some changes, you may have to let it go. And a lot of people play online, and you have a community, your friends, and you don't want to disappoint people, but ultimately you got to live your life. And those people are just people online, or friends. They're not your spouse, or not your kids. You don't really owe them anything. But ultimately, you got to decide what you want to do. And blaming other people, and being miserable, and I'll give you an example. And I love the movie, and I love the book Fight Club. There's all kind of quotes in there about people living lives they didn't want, and being owned by their possessions, and agree 100%. 100%. But to me, there's a lot of outward blame on that, on society, on this and that. And ultimately, you're the one who did all that. You're the one who made those decisions. I should say we, because I've been there. We made those decisions. We decided to do those things. So, being depressed, feeling like you live in a soulless life, um, a soulless job, all the things that people talk about. If you're bored, there's old saying, if you're bored, you're the problem. It's not your life. You, you have the power to change your life. And I think if you're not taking advantage of it, that's you're not living up to expectations that you should have for yourself, that your family has for you, that your kids, your wife, they look to you for leadership. And if you're sitting there drinking every night, um, don't want to go do nothing, don't want just blaming other people, angry, you know, just I, and people like that. Think about it. People like that. I think you need to reflect, look in the man in the mirror, and say, what can I do? What can I do to change? What can I do to get where I want to be? And you don't have to blow up your life to do that. You really don't. I mean, you may want to, and that's up to you. But I think that's short-sighted. I can tell you from experience, that time when you've got kids, it seems like it'll never end. Yeah, I love my kids. I think every man does. But it's a busy time. It's a busy season. Especially if you're all into the sports, and you're running kids to ball games, and different than whatever sports they're into, or activities, school, and all the other stuff with kids. And then your wife's busy and she's tired, and nowadays your wife works and she ain't really got time for you. It's a tough time. It's easy to be distracted and lured into some things that are very damaging to your marriage. But you got to hang in there. You got to make it a priority to fix your life and fix yourself, because you cannot help anybody if you're not where you want to be. Just like the old, they tell you on the airplane, put on your own mask and then put on your people's masks, because you can't help anybody if you can't breathe. And sometimes when you're in that spot in life when everything around you seems like it's not right, and you're living a life, you feels like a shoe that's too tight. It's uncomfortable. Like, this is not my life. This is not what I wanted. It feels like it. It feels like you can't breathe. But you got to suck it up and make the changes to shape your life into what you want it to be. And you got to do that by not blaming other people about why you are where you are. They may have influenced you or talked you into it or had certain expectations, but you agreed to them. You might say you didn't, but you did. Otherwise, you wouldn't be there. Or maybe you should have spoke up and said or did some things differently, but you're here now. You know, if you went through all the trouble of getting married to some woman, you loved her at one point. You really did. And a lot of times, what you don't love, it's not that you don't love her. You don't love your situation. You don't have time for each other. You got too many distractions, and you got to make you and her your priority. And I think for a lot of men, that's where your unhappiness, the source of your unhappiness, is your relationship with your spouse or lack thereof. It's sometimes it's hard to hear, and it's not true for everybody. You know, you can't control what your wife does, if she cheats on you or leaves you or whatever, what have you. You can't control that. But if you're married and you got kids and you come home and you're just miserable and you don't like your life, fix it. Fix it for your sake. Fix it for the sake of your kids, the sake of your wife, the sake of your parents. You know, the alternatives aren't good, because what you could stay miserable. That's not going to work. You could end things for yourself. That's not fair. It's not fair to your kids. They didn't sign up for that. That's not fair to your wife. Um, what you should do, and I hate to say it, is man up. And, you know, if you can't fix your situation with your wife, it may mean you split up. It could mean that. I mean, you can't control. All you can do is fix yourself and say, this is me. This is what I want. This is what I'm offering. If you don't want it, then maybe we ain't meant to be together at this point. And that may be. But a lot of times, if you lead, you take the steps that you should to fix yourself, she's going to follow. You know, it's not popular to say nowadays, but women want to be led. They don't want to lead. They really don't. They may say it and act like it. A lot of times they're acting like it because their husband's not leading, and somebody's got to. Um, you know, if your husband is walking around in, you know, slides and socks and unkept and, you know, wearing a Star Wars t-shirt or whatever, and as a grown man, and um, you know, that's not what they wanted. That's not probably not what they married. That may be where you're at, but that's not probably not where she started. Um, and you owe it to her to be the best version of you can be, and she owes it to you to reciprocate. But a lot of times you'll find you take that step, you make the changes, she'll follow. She really will. I'm telling you. But when you're sitting there looking at your life going, man, I didn't choose this. This isn't what I wanted. It may not be what you wanted or you want right now, but you did choose it. You made the decisions to put yourself where you're at. Whether it's, you know, your health, your fitness, your marriage, your job, whatever, you're there. You know, at some point you had a decision, take job A or job B. You know, make yourself more marketable to job A, or I settle for job B because it's easy. And you know, we make these decisions for different reasons, but ultimately you need to understand that you made the decision. You know, nobody went out and bought that Z71 $100,000 truck. You did. Nobody else went and put a gun to your head to go buy it. You bought the truck. Now you're in debt. So you shouldn't blame the government or the president or the evil, you know, finance company and all that. That's all decisions you made. You did agree to that. You signed on the dotted line to buy it. Um, it's hard to hear that, but that's the truth. And so many people on YouTube, you know, they'll there's thousands of videos of people blaming other people for their problems when the real problem is staring back at them in that camera while they're making the video, but they don't see it. You can't control what other people, you can't do, you can't control what the government does, you can't control what companies do, but you can control yourself and your decisions. So live by the rules you want to live by, but understand that all your choices have consequences. And those people, if you have people depending on you, such as kids and a wife, it's not fair to them to change the rules midstream, you know. And they talk about gray divorce. You know, people, after their kids are grown, there's a big epidemic of this, and I get it. You know, you can grow apart and all this, I guess, but golly, you got to make you and her a priority. Otherwise, you will. You have to make you and her number one, the kids number two, because you can't be fair for them if you're not together, united. But anyway, just got me thinking. I feel bad for the guy, because a lot of times the answer is right in front of us and we don't see it. It's hard to see it when you're in the middle of it, but if you're honest with yourself, you realize, I did decide to do this, that, or the other. I took the job. I married the person I shouldn't have married. I knew it going in, but yet I did it. I should have spoke up to my parents when they were pushing me into something field I didn't want to be in. But can't blame them, because they just wanted the best for you. There's all this follow your dream and all this stuff nowadays that people want to do. Well, that's why you're broke, because your dream probably ain't going to pay the bills. It can, but most of the time you got to go to work somewhere and you got to make some money. You can be an entrepreneur and all this other stuff. That's all well and good, but it's going to be a lot of work, and most people aren't willing to do it. They aren't willing to do it, so they hate on the people that that own the big corporations, and yeah, they're evil. They can be, but you can't control them. You can only control yourself. Make your life what you want it to be, and you can do it. I did it. Everybody does it. Everybody should do it, I should say. You got control over that. You got control over your family. You got control over your kids. You can decide, instead of killing yourself running the ball fields and all that every weekend, get you a crappy pop-up camper like I did and take the family camping. Spend time with them. You'll realize that your family will get a lot more out of that than spending all weekend at the ball field. But anyway, I think it's starting to rain, so I'm going to call it. This thing here, I done took the wrapper off. I did touch it up once, but that's because I'm fanatical about it. But pretty good burn. Still lots of smoke. And this red breast, get you some if you haven't had it. Anyway, y'all have a good week. Stay safe, and let me know what you think. Am I off on this? Maybe. I don't know. I'm willing to hear it. Or if you've made some changes in your life and fixed it, you found yourself in this position like this fella and fixed some things, and now you're happy, as I did. Tell me that too, because everybody loves a success story, and people need to hear that you can get yourself out of that. If you find yourself there, you can get yourself. It's possible. I did it. A lot of people have done it. You can do it too. Just maybe a little bit of work, but you can do it. But anyway, you guys have a good evening, and we will talk to you later.